Possibility is there. I can feel it, just maybe not prove it, not yet. Possibility is I'm gonna cut it out now. I can't prove it, not yet. It can't be proven. I do believe our little forehead is growing up. Pity, we like the rash, youthful forehead best. Wait a second. We already know a letter might have left the studio that night. Couldn't that have opened another path for poisoning? The situation's already changed, I just need to take advantage of it.
Let's continue with the cross-examination.
Huh. Let's check this box. Oh, I was hoping we'd get a 3D version of it that we could look around. Vermicium.
What a pretty business card. Looks like a postcard almost. On the back, just her name. That seems odd to me.
Huh? What does?
I write your name on the front and back of the card. Why not use the space on the back for a self-portrait or a caricature? Then people will remember what you look like, too.
It's not a bad idea, actually.
Here, give me one of your cards, Apollo.
She's drawing something. Hey, my hair's not that spiky. Alright, cute, but not helpful. In this instance. I did try to prove it with the picture frame last time, and they told me it was too soon. So maybe I do that press, get to the point, and now I just show the picture again.
Objection!
Let's see. I can prove it. Last time I did this, I didn't get a penalty. And we get this cool thing again. Proof hair forehead, not possibilities. Of course. And Prosecutor Gavin, I hope you understand. I'm ready to give you that proof. What did you say? I have proof of the disappearing envelope.
I saw him writing a letter, I did!
You just picked it by the mailman, I assume?
Of course. Which means that envelope had a stamp on it. Ah, new things!
A stamp! Ah!
As we all know, stamps come with dried glue on the back. In order to use the glue, you have to wet it by licking the stamp.
Objection!
Okay, it just works now. No one was talking to actually lick stamps in this day and age. Come on.
Objection!
Even if you wanted to talk to him, you couldn't. He's dead after all. Okay, so he licked the stamp. But wait, how does that explain the atroquinine on the rim of the coffee mug? If he licked the back of a poisoned stamp, the poison would get on his tongue, yes? What would then happen if he put the coffee mug to his mouth, huh? Oh! Those traces on the mug weren't the killer's doing. It was the other way around.
What?
The coffee mug didn't poison Mr. Measham. Mr. Measham poisoned the coffee mug himself.
Order! 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 But that does it?
Recall, if you would, atroquinine is a slow-acting poison, yes? The poison entered his body when he put the stamp on that envelope. But this time wasn't up until the very moment he touched his lips to that cup of joe. Kind of stumbled our way through that one, but I'll take it.
Right now my arm, don't mind me.
You have something to add, Mr. Brusher?
Uh-oh. His nose is picking up another scent.
As I believe I mentioned earlier. Well, that's the thing. See, after he put his letter in that envelope, Mr. Measham sat there searching his desk drawer for something. Yes, a stamp. A so-called postage stamp. End quote. But you know, I don't seem to remember him ever finding one.
Maybe he just run out?
Incidentally, we searched the desk drawer at the scene of the crime. There were no stamps, not a single one. Huh.
That does pose a problem. How will you prove that the stamp was coated with poison?
Actually, I'm glad no other stamps were found. It makes proving the stamp he used was poisoned possible. Good show, good show. You can't even prove there was a stamp at the scene in the first place.
Well, let's hear what the defense has to say anyway. Where's your evidence that proves the existence of this poison stamp?
It was on this tiny frame. It was a collector's stamp.
Well, that certainly is a cute little frame, and by little, I mean really little.
It was on the victim's desk, Your Honor. Quite empty, as you can see for yourself. I noticed that too during my inspection, so what? Apparently you weren't as observant as you should have been. You see, when you saw this frame, it was missing something quite important.
Missing something?
Yeah, a pale bluish stain on the inside of the frame. Atroquinine residue.
What? Why wasn't I told about this?
The frame is only 2 inches square. The face of the frame is even smaller. Maybe an inch wide at most.
You aren't saying...
Oh, but I am. Tell me, what fits in such a small frame? A commemorative stamp, perhaps?
Order! 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 The poison stamp was in this frame? Impossible! Prosecutor Gavin!
Why would he put something like that on his desk? Don't tell me he had it there so he could commit suicide if the mood struck. You know, can I say something? I had a thought, see?
What, Mr. Bushel, and please stop jeering around like that.
The victim was a forger, right? There's a lot of money in that line of work. Forger forges friends, makes enemies too, end quote.
So the poison stamp might have been a murder weapon aimed at him. Oh, rich. That's rich.
Leave the ridiculous flights of fancies to the governor's song lyrics, please. We do have a lot. We have a whole album about hobbits. You like it. Very good.
Finally, something we agree on.
The stamp was a murder weapon. Nonsense. Murder is a simple business. Who would go to such lengths?
No one. Oh, I disagree.
Come again?
Recall, if you would, the victim's reclusive lifestyle. Drew Measham hid from the world. He avoided meetings. His only contact with the outside world was the mail.
The mail?
Now, if you wanted to kill someone you couldn't meet, but you knew red letters, a stamp would be the perfect weapon.
Ridiculous. Where's your proof? I want the proof. Give it to me. Give me the proof. Put it on a plate so I can eat it up. Show us evidence that this poison stamp was sent to him as a murder weapon.
I might not have evidence, per se, but things are finally starting to come together.
What is it, Apollo? Your fists are trembling.
I think I know what happened. I don't believe it, but I can see it. I think I know how Mr. Measham was killed.
Well, fill us in, Mr. Justice.
A certain piece of evidence points to the truth, Your Honor. I can show you how someone with the intent to kill sent Mr. Measham the stamp of death. Intent to kill. It would have had to have been because the envelope, if we check it, Mr. Drew Measham are deposited, please send a receipt, signing the papers and send in the enclosed envelope with the enclosed stamp. The enclosed stamp. I need not remind you to speak of this to no one.
Take that! Isn't this the envelope, the one from 7 years ago?
Think about the text of the letter again. There were 2 pages in the envelope. This is page 1. And this is page 2. I want to draw your attention to one phrase in particular. Send in the enclosed envelope with the enclosed stamp within 3 days. The enclosed stamp, Your Honor.
Ah!
In other words, if I have this straight, the stamp, poison on the stamp, lick lick, gas, end quote. Not my best headline. Working on it. Work in progress.
Now, what if he'd done exactly as the letter asked?
He would sign the document, put it in the envelope, and put the stamp on it, right? Then he would put it in his letterbox.
15 minutes wouldn't have elapsed between affixing the stamp and mailing the letter. But the clock started ticking, and when the time came, he drew his last breath, and the murder weapon would be taken away from the scene.
Quite conveniently, thanks to the postal system. Yes, America's postal system. A point of pride for everything in America. The U.S. government. We like it. I guess.
Such a splendid imagination you have, Herr Forehead. Thank you. Let me confirm one thing with you, if I might. So, this poison stamp was inside this envelope from 7 years ago? Yeah? Is that what you'd have us believe, really? Well...
It is a little bit of a stretch, but there's a possibility.
Yes, a very small possibility. How small, I wonder? A poison stamp in this envelope? A stamp that then became the murder weapon? How do you intend to prove this seeming coincidence? Well, it was 7 years ago and we don't even know who sent that letter. And your answer is silence, I see. Very well, I move to... It's not nice to pick on the Fraulein, Clavier. Oh! What? Ah! Emma!
Well, like my Christoph Gavin impression, did I sound like him?
I guessed the wrong person. Don't quit your day job. Don't you have a crime scene to be looking after, Fraulein Detective?
Someone had to come dig you out of all the mess you're making of this case.
Mess?
You know, none of this would happen if you just trusted in science a little more. You can find out if that stamp was in that envelope easy.
Care to explain yourself, Fraulein Detective?
Get me all you want, but science is on my side. It's all in the residue, right?
That's right! The poison detection spray!
Produce the red envelope at once. You can open it on the authority of the court.
I mean, we've already read the inside. Okay, let's spray all over. Oh, hello! We've struck Stampy Gold!
Well, would you look at that?
No mistaking it. That's actroquinine residue.
I don't believe it. A murder weapon from the past. Now, 7 years later, it bears its fangs at last.
Absolutely outrageous. Tell me, why? Why didn't this murder take place 7 years ago? Well,
There's one possibility. Maybe Mr. Measham figured it out.
Figured what out?
He realized that the person who sent that letter wanted him dead. So he sent his reply with a different stamp.
And put his decisive evidence in a frame.
hold it.
You're still here?
Can I make a statement here? On the record. I, Spock Razor Toothbrushel, claim this scoop is mine, planting a flag in it right now. Through Measham killed in cold blood by cinder of 7-year-old letter, end quote. No, maybe something more succinct. Star falls after 7-year delay, end quote.
Order! I see no room for further argument here, though I admit this is all coming as quite a shock. To think that the murder weapon reached his mouth after 7 years. Stamp is ticket straight to afterlife, end quote.
Uh-oh, I think the witness is a bad influence on our judge. They're going to become friends. No!
I see no need for further debate on this matter. The sender of that letter 7 years ago could hardly have been our defendant.
Apollo, I think we just won.
Very well. This court finds the defendant.
Objection, there's a jury! You don't get to do that, Judge. The jury gets to do it. The jury who we haven't seen this whole time. Is this the bright future of our legal system?
Prosecutor, Gavin?
A ticket to the afterlife from 7 years ago. Tickets for Gaviner's shows are invalid after 2 weeks.
But it doesn't make sense any other way.
It boggles my mind that so many people haven't noticed. These are so simple. Come on. There's a fatal contradiction in Herr Forehead's claim. A contradiction? A poison stamp was placed in his envelope 7 years ago. Thereupon it was framed until now. If that's the case, then why would Drew Measham have done what he did? And explain that. He must have realized it was poisoned. Therein lies the rub. Huh? 7 years ago, the forger Drew Measham sensed the trap and puts the stamp in a frame. I do not debate this, but this begs the question. Why, 7 years later, did he use that stamp on the night of the murder? Surely you don't mean to suggest that Mr. Measham simply forgot. He put the murder weapon in a frame on his desk for 7 years and forgot? You expect us to believe he sprang the trap on himself?
While I admit this is all quite shocking myself, it does seem highly unlikely that he would fall afoul of a trap that had been sitting on his desk for 7 years.
Apollo, I don't think we're winning anymore.
I'm glad to see we're all back in the real world now. Welcome back to reality. We've been waiting for you.
Objection!
Okay, then how do you explain the poison stamp that was in this envelope? The poison stamp? Where exactly is this poison stamp again? Have you brought it to court for us? I see no proof that such a thing ever existed. What about the atroquinine residue, huh? Oh, I agree, that does seem to be atroquinine residue. But, Herr Forehead, it's certainly no stamp. Yeah, but... even if your precious poison stamp did exist, Drew Measham never would have used it. That is all. Reasonable doubt?
I believe we've come to a conclusion. Again.
Apollo, were we wrong the whole time?
I can't believe it. The poison traces match up. It can't be coincidence.
I'd like to bring some closure to this issue sometime this year. Mr. Justice?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's review the facts and see where we stand. 7 years ago, Drew Measham received a red envelope. There were traces of the poison atroquinine on the document inside that envelope. A similar trace was also found at the crime scene on this tiny picture frame. The defendants indicated the possibility of a yellow envelope. An envelope left the scene of the crime with the poison stamp on it.
Yeah, but even if this envelope contained a poison stamp, and Drew Measham, knowing this, put it in a frame, he never would have used that stamp.
I'm afraid you're right. Which means there was a fatal flaw in the defense's case.
I haven't been on the wrong track this whole time, I'm sure of it. The traces of atroquinine, the envelope, the frame, and Drew Measham's mysterious death. They're all connected somehow.
Well, Mr. Justice, do you have a conclusion for us?
The defense stands by its case, Your Honor. We've seen that the logical outcome of the evidence makes no sense, which means that one of our clues must be a fake. Ah, a fake clue? Fascinating. And if we find this fake, your wild fantasies will prove quite reasonable, yeah? The fake clue that's thrown us off the poison's trail is none other than... I think it might be the frame, actually. Drew Measham's the comedy answer. That would be hilarious. Did somebody plant the frame and he actually never figured out that it was poisoned?
This frame is the fake clue?
Without a doubt, Your Honor.
Objection!
Wasn't it you who presented this evidence to the court? Oh.
Hold on a second, Apollo. The poison on the envelope, that frame, and the coffee mug, they're all connected somehow.
Oh, right. I can hear it already. It looks like the fake was you, Hair Forehead.
We can flog ourselves later, Apollo. Now's the time for thinking.
The fake clue that's thrown us off the poison trail is none other than Drew Measham? Is he a fakeo?
The victim was a fake clue? I'm afraid I don't understand.
I'll explain. We have an envelope, a frame, and a mug linked by poison. That all makes sense. What doesn't make sense is the victim himself. Congratulations, you've completely lost me. So the fake evidence is none other than the master of fake himself, the forger? It makes a good story, I'll give you that. The fake clue, fakes, forgeries. Ah!
I know that face. That's the I just had an idea face.
I don't know if I'm right, but I'm going with it anyway. What if our forger is the fake? Come again. 7 years ago, our forger sniffed a trap and stepped aside. 7 years passed. Now the forger stumbles into that very same trap and dies. Why?
That's what I want to know.
Because the forger who was killed was a fake. Here we are again. The victim was a fake. One forger smelled the trap. One forger fell into the trap. That's two forgers, and one of them was a fake. Oh.
Order!
So you're telling us that Drew Measham's victim was a fake? Well, if he was the fake, who was the real forger? You'd better not be claiming there was some kind of switcheroo.
I'm afraid you're going to have to back up your story. Mr. Justice, show us just who the real Drew Measham was.
If Drew Measham wasn't the real forger, there's only one other person it could have been. Understood, Your Honor. Forger Drew Measham was himself a forgery. The real forger was... I guess it's gotta be Vera. She's our artist who we've seen spends lots of time drawing. It's not Phoenix. It's not Spark. There can be only one explanation, really. The real identity of the forger, known as Drew Measham, is none other than his only daughter, Vera Measham. Probably.
Order! Mr. Justice, this is going out on a limb even for you.
I kind of agree. I mean, Vera, a forger?
Let's consider it before you write it off entirely. If you look at the paintings in the studio, one fact becomes quite clear. Forgery had been taking place in that studio for quite some time. The forger wasn't caught in that trap 7 years ago. This can only mean that the one who was caught in the trap wasn't the forger.
Well, actually, that does make a certain kind of sense.
One more thing. Only 2 sets of fingerprints were found in the forger's studios, Drew Measham's and Vera Measham's. If we know that Drew Measham wasn't the forger, that leaves only one possibility by process of elimination. The forger was Vera. Well, fascinating.
Vera Measham? You've been paying attention to the trial so far.
Let's just ask her and be done with it, shall we? Who are you? Who is the forger, Drew Measham? Was that an expression of emotion I saw on her face? She's staring holes into Prosecutor Gavin's face. I'm used to being stared at by Frauleins. Believe me, oh, they all want a piece of the Gavin, yeah. So they usually talk to me too. Tell us, were you the one who forged those works of art?
Yes.
So the forger, Drew Measham, was you?
Yes, it was me.
What?
the court was in an uproar, and it wasn't coming down. We had to break for a 10-minute recess. So it looks like we're getting a mid-break. Wow, this is getting pretty crazy, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe, and if you haven't already, we'll see you next time when we continue the trial and find out what has Vera been doing. Bye for now.